wrote about all this. Everybody in the church is going, well, what can I do? And so kids are going out and they're doing bake sales, and they had tables out at ReformCon where you could buy stuff. And what's all of it for? To raise funds for the church plant. You've got people in this church that are pulling up roots to move, try to start businesses, not just looking to get jobs, but start businesses in this area so they can be the foundation of this church plant in this area. I was actually going to pull up the video, and I forgot. I'm sorry. I leave very early tomorrow morning. I've got a million things going on in my mind. I was going to pull it up and play it for you. We probably wouldn't have time now anyways. But there's a great video. Go Google it. Where, because they played it at ReformCon, where Jeff and the folks there, Jeff and Luke and everybody in leadership, explains what they found in Kauai and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it right. And, really do a church plant thing, not where you just send somebody in for a little while and try to get some local people to do this, that, or the other thing, and not really leave it with a foundation, but really try to do it right. And so everybody in the church is doing everything they can. And here is a guy, and he let a few people know, hey, I'd be willing to do this. There was no advertising. It wasn't like people walking down streets going, hey, come to our church, we're a tattoo parlor now, or something like that. And that was 3 weeks separate, or 2 weeks separate, from ReformCon. If you read anything that J.D. Hall is saying, anything Christian News is saying, you would think there are people standing around, going out, and trying to get people in to drink beer and get tattoos. That's what, and what's sad is, you watch this, Christian News puts it out, and now all these other sources are grabbing it and putting their own twist on it. And it's all based upon looking at Marcus Pittman's Facebook page and videos he put up. That's it. No interviews with the leadership, nothing about everything else that's going on, nothing about the theology of the church, nothing about... And then what you do is you take that and then you make accusation. And, I cannot believe I did not do this. I was going to cue this up. I apologize. Rushing too much this morning. I apologize. I was going to cue this up. I wanted to be able to quote him directly. Drat it all. And I don't think I have it in Dropbox. Let me look real quick here. Nope, I don't have it in Dropbox. I have it on my home unit. Drat. I was gonna let JD say it for himself. So I'm gonna have to. Fundamentally, the accusation is being made. Now JD will, there were many things that he said in this polemics report, and I just found out 10 minutes before I sat down to do this program that he's put out a response to what Summer and I wrote. And I only had, the only thing I've been able to see of it is that they can't get her last name right. It's not Finch, it's Pinch. Anyway, you just got to chuckle at some of this stuff. There was a bunch of stuff that JD said that I completely agreed with. I was very interested in his discussion of tattoos. It was very interesting that he himself said, and I don't think we can go to Leviticus 19:28. He has an interesting take. It is a quite possible take in regards to ritualistic cutting. There were some interesting things he said there. His discussion of your theology of the body, very interesting. People have asked, well, you're going to have a tattoo in the resurrection? Well, if it's sinful, I won't. If it's not, maybe I will. Don't know. And I really don't think once we get there, we're going to be thinking about that personally. But no, it was an interesting conversation. When he got into the specifics, he had to admit, hey, if you want to have a drink in the privacy, as long as you're not trying to get other people to do that, I don't have any problem with it at all. He realizes you cannot say this is sin. And he says, if you're going to say something to sin, you better be very, very careful. So the one J.D. Hall says, well, I can't say it's sin. I don't think it's wise, but I can't say it's sin. That's the one J.D. Hall. That's the J.D. Hall I know. That's the J.D. Hall I've defended. That's J.D. Hall who is my brother in Christ. I think he's completely wrong on this stuff. And he is someday going to have to apologize thoroughly to Jeff Durbin if he could ever get to know him well enough to realize that he is a wonderful brother in Christ. Okay? But here's the issue. That's not what he's, when you press him, I have to be very careful, and I have to talk about this, and I have to talk about that. The problem is his articles and what he says at the very beginning of that program, within the first few minutes of that program, is a direct assertion of sin, character flaws, and debauchery on the part of the leadership of Apologia Church. And I'm sorry, it's Apologia Church. That's what they call it, but I teach Greek. Okay? This is an old joke, but I ain't changing how I pronounce Greek. And they don't care, and they still let me speak. So it's all right. So what's the line that JD has transgressed is the line of saying, I wouldn't do things this way, can't call it sin, but I'm going to judge the character of people that I do not know based upon partial information. Now, how much of this has to do with the fact that it was Apologia that sponsored his debate with Joel McDermott? I don't know. But my experience is, and I've thought through so much of this over the past couple days. I've listened to JD's presentation twice, and I've had all sorts of wonderful thoughts that I will never remember to be able to express because I'm hurrying too much. But there is a mindset, and it's a mindset I once had. And that mindset is, if you look differently than me and you do it differently than me, I can't really accept your profession of faith seriously. It is the separatist, independent, fundamentalist, Baptist type thing. But it's not just limited to independent, fundamentalist Baptists. There are even Reformed folks that fall into this. I know Reformed Baptists who will say that Presbyterians are good brothers in the Lord, but they won't act that way. Because in their hearts and minds, that paedobaptism thing, you know, if you really got it, you wouldn't do that kind of thing. It's just a remnant of papism. And so I just, you know, I just don't know if we can really get together. And there's plenty of Presbyterians. In fact, I would say there are more Presbyterians that have that attitude toward Baptists than Reformed Baptists do toward Presbyterians, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, this is what's getting me in trouble with a lot of these folks. The Michael Brown friendship is one of the clearest examples. You can't, he's just so wrong on so many things. You can't. He just looks too different. It doesn't matter what he professes. It doesn't matter that he talks about justification by faith and grace and all. No. If you just took it to its logical conclusion, there's just too much. I don't even need this thing in my ear anymore. There's just too much stuff there. We can't go there. Okay?